Greetings to all true boxing enthusiasts. This is the Fighter's Portrait segment, and today we're going to take a look at an interesting and promising boxer from Uzbekistan, Bektemir Melikuziev. What's the point? Last night in America, in Las Vegas, Bektemir defeated the American Darius Fulgham. It seems like this was an eliminator bout under the WBA. And if I understood everything correctly, the news sites are saying that Melikuziev can now contend for a full championship title to fight for it. But as for this recent fight, we're pretty much not going to break it down right now. I'll just say a couple of words about it at the end. Why? Because, well, there are a lot of new fights coming up. The stats will change. There will be new opponents. All of this, well, is temporary. So to speak, everything keeps changing. And I post fight predictions and reviews for most fights in my private Telegram channel. If you want, you can subscribe, or if you prefer, you don't have to right now. It's up to you. And here on YouTube, we're going to talk specifically about Bektemir Melikuziev's technique, about his strengths. Why does he win? On the other hand, we'll also talk about his weaknesses and vulnerabilities. What are Melikuziev's weaknesses? We'll discuss his prospects. How realistic is it for Bektemir to become a world champion? So, we're going to break all of this down right now. In any case, I want to start with some statistics, and I'm also going to pour myself a little more tea right now. If you want, go ahead and pour yourself a drink too. Make yourself comfortable, settle in. We're not in any rush. So, Melikuziev is 29 years old, which means he's still pretty young, not even 30 yet. His weight class is super middleweight. That's 76 kilograms, 200 grams, the same division where Canelo is currently fighting, and, of course, Canelo is the champion in all versions there. Bektemir has 16 wins and 1 loss. His loss was to Gabriel Rosado. He once lost by knockout. Many people think it happened because he was dropping his hands. I don't agree with that. That's not really the issue at all. He got caught with a counter. Honestly, he could have taken that shot even with his hands up, because even when your hands are raised, it's rare that you perfectly block every punch. So, he was more just caught off guard and ran into the punch. That was probably his main mistake at the time. But he bounced back from that loss. It happened many years ago. And now he's moving forward. Nothing but wins. Now, also, his height. Bektemir is 1.77 meters tall. That's significantly below average. So, basically, he's shorter than almost all of his opponents. Also, Melikuziev is a southpaw. Now, the most important thing. He burst onto the amateur boxing scene, the Olympic scene, very suddenly. So, at the age of 20, in 2016, he already went to the Olympic Games, won a silver medal there, and immediately drew attention to himself with his unconventional boxing style. This tournament made a big impression on him. So, Melikuziev, well, first of all, he's shorter than his opponents. At the same time, he boxes at a distance. He steps forward onto his lead foot, which, as we know, is something he does a lot. That's where it all starts. He drops his hands, but in his case, whether he raises them or drops them, it really doesn't make much difference. So his boxing style is really based on movement. So let's move on to how he actually boxes as a professional. He turned pro in 2019, and he's been fighting as a pro for 6 years now. The way he fought as an amateur back then is pretty much the same way he fights as a pro now. So, basically, not much has changed. His boxing is still based on movement. Still in the tournament. It's very, very important that Rodriguez is killed, so he's a southpaw. And by the way, notice that all the top fighters from Uzbekistan are southpaws. Name me at least one right-hander. Well, maybe someone will mention Vazir Abdurrahimov, but again, he actually switches stances. So, Uzbek boxing and their boxing school are now based on excellent conditioning, great physical training, and really good footwork. Some of them use a bouncing movement, others move with steps, but they all control the distance, and as southpaws, they all turn you around. Yes, they approach attack angles in different ways, and Melikuziev's boxing absolutely starts with his footwork. He's a movement-based boxer. He has a few techniques, but basically everything is pretty standard. First, there's the bounce step controlling the distance. Yes, that's what you see, but not today. Second, he's a southpaw. He spins you around, comes in on you. Well, anyone who's boxed themselves knows there are several things going on here. First of all, when he goes on the attack, he spins you, kind of goes around you, and it makes things uncomfortable for you. Subtitles by Dimeter Zoc. Secondly, even just the way he holds his hands up or down, whether he's closer or farther, to the left or right. Basically, it's hard to land a shot on him because he's constantly moving. Yeah, so he's a footwork-based boxer. And the next thing is Bektemir Melikuziev's striking technique. It's quite interesting. They're risk takers. They're looking for something big, but they're looking for something big. He hits hard, he has a signature punch, but we'll talk about that later. But what's important? Bektemir's punches are relaxed, and for the most part, he throws hooks. He throws straight punches too. He was even throwing them last night. Yeah, straight punches. He landed some 1-2s right between the American's guard, but for the most part, he throws hooks. And those hooks, yeah, they're powerful. Again, he punches from his legs. So pay attention. When Melikuziev wants to throw a hard punch, he almost never throws it from a standstill. There's a common belief that to throw a powerful punch, you need to plant your feet and punch from a stationary position. That's partly true. It's true to some extent, but it really depends on your technique. In Melikuziev's case, if he personally tries to throw a hard punch from a standstill, his punch will actually be weak. So he really hits hard specifically when he's moving. Basically, for Melikuziev personally, with his technique, he needs the kind of, lunge or hop to throw a punch. In other words, he's actually very, massive, powerful, and shorter than his opponents. He does this kind of shuttle movement, sometimes a shuffle, a step, a hop, and he sort of jumps in and then throws his punch. So basically, this is an important point, that Melikuziev, when it comes to planting his feet and throwing a punch from a standstill, like in classic boxing, that's really not his thing at all. I mean, he can throw a punch like that, but he doesn't have any power in those shots. Guys, I want to add something. I noticed this while editing the video. Actually, there are moments where Bektemir does land powerful punches from a standstill. But pay attention. Even then, the power comes from his legs. There's a strong push off the ground, and he needs quite a bit of space, specifically long range. So, one way or another, even from a standstill, he uses his legs to launch himself forward, and he needs space for that, specifically long range, and the power comes from his legs. What kind of power does he have? He feints, creates an opening, and gets himself into an angle for the attack. And then he kind of accelerates his whole body with his legs. I mean, he's big, massive, like a cannon, By the way, his nickname is Bully Beck. It's written on his belt. I thought it meant bull. No, it actually means hooligan. So he's this big guy, and he kind of propels himself forward with his legs, making a little hop, basically using his big body to build up speed. Right, he drives himself forward, and on that hop, he throws a sharp punch. Now, what types of punches does he use? First of all, I want to start with the downside. So, Melikuziev, he's a distance fighter. Well, basically, he's a distance fighter. He's shorter than his opponents. But really, he relies on his legs. So, he's a distance boxer. But his strength isn't in his straight punches. If a distance fighter has power in their straight punches, they're almost always a champion. For example, a quality distance fighter, Kovalev. If you have power in your straight punches, you're a champion. Bivol, he has power in his straight punches. Well, he's a champion too, right? So Melikuziev, his drawback is really a technical, fundamental one. Since he's a distance fighter, if he wants to throw a hard punch, it's a hook. So it's either, well, basically, it's a side punch, a kind of corkscrew punch over the top. Bektemir Melikuziev's signature punch is the left hook to the liver. So, what's special about this punch? Well, first of all, it's actually really powerful. Bektemir is also really good at timing this punch, which is very difficult to do. If you've ever boxed yourself, what's the problem with all these punches? That you might be met. When you throw a body shot, you open yourself up completely. You're basically totally exposed. So you have to pick the right moment so your opponent doesn't have time to catch you with a counter. Also, as a rule, Bektemir, when he throws this punch, he shifts his head just a little so that if there's a counter, it misses him. And often he guesses the moment just right. He doesn't just rush in and throw a shot to the liver. He actually irritates, and feints to mess with his opponent. It's like his opponent throws a punch at him, and he throws his punch at the same time. And he kind of dodges, moves his head out of the line of attack, and lands his own shot to the liver. Basically, it's a combination of technique, skill, and talent. So yeah, this is his signature punch, and he really knows how to land it as a counter to the liver. He throws a jab with his lead hand, by the way, but not very often. It's a normal jab, nothing out of the ordinary, so you can't really say it's anything super powerful. He also likes to throw looping punches with his lead hand, which are actually very similar to left hooks, but he throws them from the right side. So he lands them in the spleen area, down to the body. He also throws a similar overhand punch, kind of like a corkscrew shot, but all of Bektemir Melikuziev's punches are built on, well, they all come from his legs. On one hand, that's good because it adds power, but on the other hand, since those are the only kinds of punches he throws, he always jumps in, always attacks with a forward bounce, kind of a shuttle movement. So, if he's just standing on his feet, the power of his punches drops off a lot. Now let's move on to the drawbacks of Bektemir Melikuziev. First of all, he's very mobile. This boxing style is really suited for amateur, Olympic boxing, because there you only have 3 rounds. But in the pros, you have to move like that for 12 rounds, and doing that for all 12 rounds is really tough. And we can see this in Melikuziev's fights. Even when he just beat Fulgham, at some points he was on the edge. He looked really tired, and because of that fatigue, he was taking some shots, but still, he won. So the first thing is that his style is very energy consuming, and he needs to be extremely well prepared in terms of endurance. That's actually really difficult, to be honest. It's always right on the edge. There are exceptions in boxing. Take Usyk, for example. He moves around a lot, but he's an exception. You don't really see that much otherwise. And Bektemir's weight class is 76 kilograms. That's not lightweight. Those are huge guys. And in this weight class, 76 kilograms, but in the ring they're over 80, bouncing around on your toes for all 12 rounds is extremely hard. Next point. Well, this is a fundamental drawback. It's something that probably most modern boxers have. Very few people know how to throw straight punches with real power behind them. And Bektemir is exactly that case. He's a distance fighter. There's some power in his straight punches, of course. But when he landed those hooks, like even last night against Fulgham, it was clear that if he connected, the American would go down, no question. But he just wasn't landing clean shots there. And when it was the other way around, when Fulgham was defending against the hooks and Bektemir was hitting him between the guard, he was connecting and Fulgham's head was snapping back. But that's not the same thing, right? Those punches aren't really knockout shots. So his technique is basically that his hooks are really powerful, but his straight punches aren't as strong. The next point is that Bektemir, with his stocky build, he's shorter than his opponents, broader, more muscular, and has a heavier bone structure. So, in theory, people like that are good at boxing in close range at mid-distance. They can just push forward and bulldoze their way in. He stands firm on his feet and overpowers his opponents with sheer strength. Melikuziev doesn't have that either. Why? It's what we've already discussed. His technique is unique. He strikes by lunging in. So it turns out that. Do you make a lunge from long distance? And even with Fergun, well, it doesn't have to be just him. That's how it was in the past. That's how it will be in the future with any opponent. So if Melikuziev wants to land a punch, he needs to step back. So he steps back, then he lunges in and lands a punch while jumping in. But if they get too close and press against each other, then that's it. That powerful, heavy punch just disappears.
It will be.
It's just not there anymore. I mean, there is still some kind of punch, but it's just not the same anymore. Yeah, so Melikuziev's technique is really about landing punches while jumping in. And so it creates a kind of contradiction. On one hand, he's solid, he's strong, he has an advantage in physical strength. So he could actually specialize in exchanges, in close-range fighting. Like, if he just had the stamina, he could get in close, press in, and break through, overwhelm his opponent with his power. But as I see it at least, he doesn't do well with that, because he needs distance to throw a punch. He needs to get his body moving by hopping in. Those are some of the drawbacks. Well, guys, I think we've covered everything. Let me check my phone. I have some notes here. Oh, here's another very important point. What about motivation? I mean, please understand me correctly. I've noticed that some boxers from Uzbekistan, some of them, they just kind of lose, how should I put it? I think it's because of motivation. They start off well, everything's fine. They can even become champions, but then they just gradually lose their spark. They start preparing worse and worse. Or maybe they're not being managed as well, I don't know. But I've seen this happen several times. Everything seems fine at first, and then there's this gradual decline, and eventually they just fade away. Nobody ever heard from him again, did they? And I was worried about Bektemir Melikuziev. And by the way, not just him. For example, I'm a big fan of Bektemir Jalilov. Out of everyone, I like Bektemir Jalilov the most. Well, also the fact that he won 2 medals at the Olympics. What's going to happen to him next? Will he train as a pro? Honestly, it's all kind of unclear. I mean, it's not clear what's going on with motivation. And so I was worried about Melikuziev. I'll be honest, for example, I thought he would lose tonight to that Fergun guy. But actually, he did great. He won. How did he do it? Well, first of all, due to the class. I mean, the Olympic boxing school really shows, and he was in great physical shape. So if he give an Olympian good physical conditioning, he can show a lot no matter what. He just needs the physicality, the endurance. That's it. And again, the American too. Yeah, well, that's really a whole separate topic. I'll break it down in detail on my private channel. Basically, the American boxes in an unorthodox way. He's taller, but he doesn't know how to box at a distance. At range, he just defends and throws a jab. Otherwise, he just moves forward, trying to break through. But he took a lot of shots from Melikuziev, and Melikuziev has a powerful punch. That's also a big advantage. Even if they're just hooks, right? Well, even though he's more of a distance fighter, he throws them with a lot of power. And after that, his opponent, well, it really holds him back. So Fergun took some shots to the body, pretty solid ones, and he also got hit in the head, even if some of them just grazed him or went through his guard, but they were dangerous shots. And he starts to get cautious. And he ends up missing his own opportunities. And because of that, well, Melikuziev won. So it was a combination of being really well prepared physically and hitting. Yeah, hitting hard, right? And that's what restricted Fergun. And well, as for Fergun himself, he just lacks a certain overall boxing foundation. So he wasn't able to read Melikuziev in certain aspects. You could see he had prepared. He understood what he needed to do. But I think, honestly, it was all pretty simple. He felt those punches himself. And basically, after that, things kind of fell apart for him. The plan was good. Honestly, I thought the American would win, especially since the judges would probably be on his side. But in the end, he lost, right? So Melikuziev won fair and square. Now he's doing well. He's moved up to 20th place. It looks like he's a contender for the WBA World Champion title. That's all really awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a boost to his motivation. Well, there was something I was really worried about. And from my point of view, I don't want to lie about it, honestly. I used to think that Melikuziev wouldn't become a champion in boxing. That's just what I thought, for the last few years. I've been following him for a long time, even back when he was an amateur. A friend of mine told me about him, like there's this guy Melikuziev, and he boxes so brightly, so unusually. Yeah, he really does have a unique boxing style because of his footwork. He's so relaxed. On one hand, he's a big guy, but on the other, he fights in such a loose, relaxed way. His legs are so springy. That's pretty cool, right? But when he turned pro, I saw that he was kind of stuck in place. I thought he would just stall out somewhere along the way. Like, eventually they just let him go and he'd fade away or something. But turns out, no. Turns out, now he's made it into the top 20, and that's pretty cool, right? So, will he actually beat Canelo or not, guys? Canelo's not going to fight him. That fight, Canelo doesn't have that much time left. What, maybe a couple more years? I don't think so. No, probably not. Canelo's only going to fight big money names now. Like some Americans or Mexicans or whatever. Someone with a big name, tons of Instagram followers, and so on, that kind of thing. As for Bektemir, honestly, from my point of view, Bektemir is actually a pretty convenient opponent for Canelo. So I don't think, basically, I believe Canelo would win. That's what I'll say, okay, here. But if it's someone else, even a strong opponent, there are a lot of possibilities. Bektemir absolutely has a real chance to become world champion, but he could also stumble, meaning he could lose as well. We'll see, we'll be watching. Guys, thanks for watching this video. Just a reminder, I upload my predictions to a paid, private Telegram channel, which you can always subscribe to if you feel like it. All the best to everyone. See you next time. Turning off the camera.